Hey, what's up, everyone? This is the first episode of Cloud Security Podcast. Unfortunately, I don't have a video, so I've got the audio here. You should still be able to listen to the whole episode. Let me know what you think. If you want more information on the podcast, it's on www.kaizenTech.com/Cloud Security Podcast. Or you just Google search for Cloud Security Podcast. Do follow us and leave a review. Do subscribe to the channel if you want more updates. All the episodes will be coming over here as well. At least all the future episodes will be coming over here. And if you have any feedback, do leave a comment. All right, let's get into the video. Hello, and welcome to the Cloud Security Podcast. Today's episode is going to be about Devsecops. You guys know how passionate I'm about Devsecops. And we are running a series where we talk about Devsecops, in which we have a security person, that's yours truly, and we have a DevOps or an engineer. For that, today I have Arjen. Would please introduce yourself to the audience, Arjen?
Hi, I'm Arjen Schwartz. I am a lead platform engineer at Azure, so I guess that covers the DevOps part,
Yes.
or engineer part.
Yep.
I also run a podcast called The Ambassador Lounge,
Yes.
which is where this episode is also airing.
That's right. So this is a collaboration between Arjen's podcast and the Cloud Security Podcast. I thought it's a great idea in terms of bringing the two communities together. We always talk about how do we do security and DevOps together, and I think this is our version of covering it. At least from this episode, we're covering AWS. The way we're going to talk about this DevSecOps episode is we're going to separate out the AWS security products, the new products that were released. We're going to talk about any new features or changes to existing security products, and we were going to talk about the AWS security features that are added to existing products, which are not necessarily security products. So Arjen, let's just go with the first one. IAM Access Analyzer. What are your thoughts on it?
Obviously, it's a very interesting new tool. You are probably better suited from a security perspective.
Yeah. And being DevSecOps, I want to put DevOps first. Let's go DevOps first, and then the SecOps comes in.
Yep. So this allows you to detect permissions, that how they have been used, that they are granted publicly across account, things like that. So at the moment, it seems mostly purely security feature. From DevOps perspective, in that case, it would just be, it makes it easier to detect these things. But I can also see more coming out of it when the service grows, that you will get a bit more information out of it, that you can use it to, for example, find out exactly what is being used by users or roles, and that way ensure that you get more fine-grained permissions.
And to your point, it's actually quite difficult if you were to think about from an engineering perspective as well, where if you have a large enough team and if you have a lot of IAM users or IAM roles, after a certain scale, it gets quite difficult to see how many people have access to, I guess, an admin access versus how many people have read-only access, how many people have like a mix of admin and read-only access. So I see what you mean. Like the potential is a lot more than just being, I'm just going to, because the way it's positioned at the moment, it looks at any IAM role or policy which has been provided with public access or cross-account access. It's only region-based, but still it kind of gives you that perspective that, I at least know these many roles in my account has permission, enough permission for it to give a resource cross-account access or have public access. So I see there's a lot more potential. So what about use cases? So I guess you're going to mention one use case, or a potential use case. The security use case that I thought of was if you have, let's say, if you're a startup or a small company which is primarily relying on IAM users, or even if you're a big enterprise which is using IAM roles to map out what kind of privileges you have shared, it's a great tool to start analyzing the current state, which depending on what your scale is, you could be looking at, how many people have cross-account access, how many people should they have cross-account access, or how many people have public access, is that intentional or unintentional? If you look at the service in AWS console, it allows you to kind of resolve as well as call out which is an intentional service. So they obviously understand there's like a public access service that S3 buckets sometimes need to be public. So you need to allow that. So that's, I think to your point, I like this service because it gives a huge potential for a future more DevSecOps kind of work coming in. Cool. All right, next one. And as always, we'll appreciate if you guys and girls have more thoughts on this we would love to hear back from you. You can reach out on our socials or reach out on the podcast pages that we would have on the hosting sites, but putting that in there before we go on to the next one. Cool. All right.
Also worth pointing out, this is all based on an article that you wrote.
Oh, yeah.
That people should just check out, and it's in the show notes.
Perfect. Thanks for the plugin. Really appreciate the plugin. All right, next service, AWS Detective. What do you think of this one?
I think it's interesting. It's in a way, it's yet another collation service of AWS logs.
I've kind of felt that as well. It's really interesting, and it's my pet peeve, right? Because similar to how engineering would have a lot of monitoring dashboards for a lot of applications, if you were to imagine this as an engineer or as a DevOps person who's managing the fleet of applications for an entire enterprise, you have multiple dashboards to look at already, right? You don't want to be like individually looking at dashboard 1 for certain features, dashboard 2 for certain features. You just want everything in one space. And to your point about this being like yet another dashboard, because I kind of felt that the whole AWS Security Hub was a great start, but you kind of mentioned something initially when we were talking offline that there is a bit of a difference between AWS Security Hub and AWS Detective. What was that?
Yeah, so in my opinion, and again, as it's still in preview, we haven't had any hands-on yet. From my understanding, where Security Hub is focused on giving you a broad overview of all the security-related features running in your account and potential issues there. AWS Detective is more focused on root cause analysis for basically more at the application level. So at the workload level, I would say.
So if I had, I guess, an application which is behaving incorrectly, like say for example, if I had 100 requests per second, that used to be the average, but now suddenly I'm receiving 10,000 requests per second, it could be a potential, and again, it's a preview, so we're just speculating here.
Yeah, that's pure speculation. It's, I wouldn't be surprised if it is possible with that. I still feel like it's probably mostly focused on the security aspect, but the 10,000 requests per second would likely indicate either something has gone really wrong with your application, or we mentioned your site on our podcast.
And then suddenly it gets a lot of spike and you're like, oh my god, I'm so popular.
But the most likely case is probably that you're under DDoS or similar attack.
Fair enough. And I think that's a really good I think it's a really good service from that perspective that security folks should definitely be, I guess, considering as well. Both from your perspective that, and again, this is where engineering and security can work together to identify what's a regular pattern versus what's not a regular pattern, and when something is a threat versus when something is not a threat. Like I think that's kind of where there could be a lot more collaboration done as well between security and DevOps. The use cases that they mentioned, and this is kind of listed, is triage, security finding, incident investigation, and threat hunting, which kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's kind of like primarily a security tool right now, but could be much more than that. Yeah,
in many ways, I feel like it's a think of it like that way. I feel like Security Hub is what's going on at the moment, and Detective is more for after the fact, finding out what happened.
Oh yeah, actually that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, perfect.
Hopefully you can use that to also find things before they happen.
While
they're happening.
More detect rather than respond, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. AWS Nitro Enclaves. Your thoughts on that?
So this is really interesting one in my opinion. So the way they mentioned it is using everything they've done for Nitro, basically that allows all the fancy new instance types like now the Graviton tool and all of that. And building on top of that, they now allow an extra layer of isolation from the From the
data?
Yeah, between the data and the underlying host as well. So it's even more isolated than just as a VM.
Oh yeah, and I kind of like the fact that it's not just isolation, and I think obviously it's a new kind of processing that's being provided from an instance types for different instance types. The security feature for me in this is the fact that isolation for PII and health data or any kind of sensitive data is great, but having a faster processing also means that you would not feel latency between, and it needs to go to this containerized or this isolated space inside my processor, so it's going to take some time. So I like the fact that they've optimized that as well, considering that you still get the security benefits of isolation without losing the performance of how it would be regularly, I guess. Is that a good way to put it across?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. And I think and we kind of touched on this already, the use cases, additional isolation and security for high sensitive data, and you can do memory-based encryption from what I understand as well. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how we go.
Yeah, what I'm interested in with this one as well is if it's for many use cases, it might replace dedicated instances.
Oh.
Which obviously at the moment carry I think $1 per VM per hour
right.
surcharge.
Yeah.
And
this would reduce it further.
Well, as far as my understanding is, this is basically a software solution that you don't pay for, or?
Oh yeah, it's part of the process. So you just pay for the instance type, and that's pretty much it. Yes, that's right. And it's a feature of the instance type that you're using.
Yeah.
Rather than, so whatever the instance type cost is, you just pay that, and
exactly.
If you add that to a reserved instance, you're definitely looking at security as well as, I guess, engineering capability at a low cost. Wow, they managed to combine all three. It's like, great job, AWS. Amazon Code Guru. What are your thoughts on this one?
Code Guru is interesting. I say that a lot, I know this. But it's because it is. At the moment, Code Guru its biggest limitation, in my opinion, is that it only supports Java.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And who wants to learn Java, right?
Who wants to learn Java? And now all the enterprise people listening are shouting at us.
They all hate us now, right? They're like, what? Why not Java? Best language ever.
Yeah. So, yeah, at the moment, the big use case for Code Guru, it has two parts to it. It has basically a code review process where it tells you, hey, you can do this better, which is really nice and obviously has some strong potential as it's been trained on the actual AWS and Amazon source code. That's
the best part, I think, because it's like, to your point, it's because it's the Amazon code, not that we're saying that, it trusts it because it's Amazon, but it's a fact more that, well, someone who has a much bigger scale of business than an average company in Australia or any other average company in the US anywhere as well, it's a lot more information for a machine learning algorithm to go through and consume and understand versus a limited set of just, say, any local company over here. I don't want to name a company, but if you were to imagine the biggest telecom company that you would have in your country, this is like that times 10 or that times the number of regions that are covered by AWS. That's the scale of code that is being processed over here.
Yeah, exactly, and that's also why there's a lot of the recommendations that will be made are about optimization, and for obvious reasons, any millisecond that AWS can shave off in their code will have massive impact. So that is something they strongly
and especially if you're like a digital first kind of organization, you would find that milliseconds can really add up slowly, but every time a page loads or every time a code loads, a millisecond delay can add up depending on how much of it is actually accumulating. I guess I love this service from a perspective that, and again, it's a preview mode, so there is a lot more to be seen from this service at this point in time before it becomes GA. But I like the potential in this, that it could be something that we can use from an application security review perspective. At the moment, we have other, providers that we rely on for it, or we have, application security guys in the organization who are going through this. But I think of this from a smaller scale perspective. If it was a startup who's like primarily on AWS, or if it's a small to medium sized business primarily on AWS, doesn't have the money for a security person, but they could just use a service like this to say, I can optimize on performance and get rid of the obvious security ones as well. Like any security flaws may come out of it, but that's a future potential for the service. That's why I am excited. I find it to be something that I'll definitely keep an eye on. Cool. Yeah. All right. We kind of spoke about the use case for already, so we'll move to the next one. Amazon Fraud Detector.
Yeah. So I guess based on the name, it is very obvious what the use case for this is.
Yeah, it is.
Again, similar to some of the services released last year, like recommendations, the recommendation engine from Amazon. This uses Amazon's fraud detection.
Yeah, and I think, and the way I would see it is like if you're a bank or a financial institute which has been doing fraud for a very long time, you're like, well, why am I going to use this service? I think the potential of this service is that if you can use this service to make a fraud model template, the Amazon guys are providing a model that can consume a template which is focused towards fraud, use your learning and combine that with machine learning to actually to enhance what you may have already learned. If you're already doing machine learning, then you might still want to check out if they're doing something different to what you are doing. You would find the most benefit from this is the fact that it just adds on to that existing template you may have, I guess, in the organization. Would you agree?
Yeah. Also, in addition to that, I would say that for smaller companies, not just the big banks and things like, they might be able to just more easily hook into this get some of the fraud detection. Yeah. It may not be as advanced then as what the banks with everything combined get, but it will be a lot more than nothing. And building something from scratch is just a lot of work for fraud detection.
And especially if you think about all the neobanks and all the micro finance, I mean, I guess the fintech space is exploding at the moment, so those guys can definitely use this. That would be a great feature for them. At your point, it makes sense for them to at least start building on this now, maybe, and see how far they can go with it. Maybe start collecting, use this as a benchmark or a base for this is how we should be doing it.
Yeah. So it might be good enough even for a lot of them to just stick to it. That's right. It could just be good enough just to stick to this one. Cool. The next one is AWS local zones. This is something I did not expect, but it's a logical next step for the outposts that now finally came out.
Yeah.
For those who are not familiar with it, local zones is basically a sort of mini availability zone that is in a different city from the actual region. Mm-hmm. So the only one currently available is in Los Angeles, which is tied to the Oregon region.
Yeah. And I guess the potential for this is like if you're a country or a state or a region which is not close to an Amazon region, which is a different region, you can extend a close by region to somewhere local to you, a local data center through a partner. Now, I guess from a security perspective, you would find you can probably extend your existing data center security privileges across to a partner or ask them to match those onto this. This is again speculation because we don't really know what it looks like. It's still in preview mode, and the way it's been described, it is extending. You should still be able to use your AWS APIs, and you should still be able to use AWS services which are available in the region that you're closer to, or the region that's acting as a local zone for you. So my, I guess, 2 cents from a security perspective on that is, that means you're either you're looking at extending your on-prem security features onto this, I guess, local zone, or it could also mean that extending your Amazon features from your Amazon region onto your local zone. So you kind of need to, or it could be a matchup, or it could be a marrying the two together. So we'll wait and see how we go. But I feel like it's going to be interesting from a lot of people doing migration, people moving towards hybrid. I think it's going to be a really interesting mix, especially if you have some kind of a regional governance requirement where you need to be in a certain region for all your data. That may be a good feature or a good service for people to look out for. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And in addition, obviously, it is if you are very far from any region.
Yeah.
Like an obvious example in Australia is we have the one single region in Sydney. If you're based in Perth, that's what is it, 4,000 kilometers or something like that?
It's a long it's a long distance, yes.
Yeah, that's a bit more latency than you might want. So if you have something running locally, just the direct interface probably, because keep in mind there's a lot less high availability and similar things that are possible. But if you have it, in a way, it brings more compute to your local endpoints.
It does. And I think that's the best part, with having the same features as a cloud, but more local to you than the service which probably comes with some latency.
Yeah.
Cool. So that was the segment where we spoke about the new security products that were released by AWS. The next segment is AWS security product updates, existing products. The first one is AWS WAF, third, and AWS Classic, WAF Classic, sorry. What do you think?
Yeah. So this was a release that went very under the radar for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea why. It was hidden in a blog post that just said, "Oh, we now have managed rules."
Yeah, yeah.
And underneath, then I didn't really realize until I saw the CloudFormation updates that had a WAF 2.
Yeah, WAF 2.0.
WAF 2.0, and so
I think it's a very interesting one as well, because you kind of mentioned when we were talking offline, you kind of mentioned that there was it's I guess it has a lot more free tier now, or you kind of mentioned something about it's optimized.
So the one of the biggest changes to it is I think there are some billing changes as well.
Yeah.
But the other big change is to do with the limitations.
Oh. So please tell more.
It used to with the original with WAF Classic, I guess we call it now. You had a limit of how many rules you could have in your WAF. I believe there was a limit of 10 rules per actual ACL. Well, now everything is point-based, and you can. So if you look in the WAF console, you look at the managed rules from AWS, which I believe are now free to use.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's the cost effectiveness.
Yeah, that's the big advantage cost-wise. But you can have 1,500 points is
on a single WAF.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a huge number from 10, I guess. Huge jump.
Yeah, so it's not a one-to-one relationship, because that. So now the points are based on complexity.
Oh, interesting.
So there are some that are maybe 50 points.
Mm-hmm.
There might be one that is 1,000 points.
Oh.
And it's all, I assume it's based on the complexity of the calculations or the speed with which it can pass through these.
Oh, so that makes me question. So I guess, because one common WAF rule that a lot of people that I talk to and a lot of customers, I'm sure you're talking to as well, they ask for is the OWASP top 10.
Yep.
Is that, because earlier there was no managed rules for it, from what I understand. We had to create our own or use a vendor-based vendor offering of a managed rule. Now, I don't know what the complexity level for that is. Probably, I'm presuming it'll be high. But did you, I'm sure not sure if the managed rules actually cover that, but is that something that you can call out? Like when you did the CloudFormation templates, when you saw the CloudFormation update, did you see in terms of, were they easy to call out that, I just want a OWASP top 10, I want, I don't know, NIST top 10 or something? Obviously I'm making up the NIST top 10, but just make like, can you pick and choose complexity, or is it going to be more that, oh no, this is what you get? I think it sounds more like it's...
Yeah, so based on a specific rule, that is the complexity that it has. So that's the number of points it has.
Right.
So I'm honestly not entirely sure with like the OWASP top 10. I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, they just split that out into 10 different rules.
Yeah. Because there's no charge. If it's an AWS managed rule, there's no charge for it anyway. So you could just say, I just want protection for SQL injection, but I've got CloudFront for DDoS, so I don't really care about that. Or I've got something else for object in-object reference or whatever. So
at least if that's not the case, I believe that is what they should do.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has the same needs.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah.
If you run a static site, you don't really care as much about
SQL injection. Especially there's no database at the back, or you're protecting with SQL injection, then if there's no database at the back. Cool. Funny enough, that was the only change to an existing security product. And as Arjen mentioned, it was under the radar as well, so no one really saw it coming until you actually logged into the console, or like Arjen, you were on CloudFormation template trying to update it, you won't even notice it. So that's a good one that AWS sneaked in, but for some reason wasn't spoken about much. We moved on to the next section now. The next section is on update security features to existing products. And Amazon VPC ingress routing is the first one.
Yeah. So this it does exactly what it says. You can now route all your traffic, your incoming traffic, through a single point.
Yeah.
If only there were appliances that were dedicated to dealing with those kind of things.
Yeah, and I guess the short version that I understand is you can assign route tables to VPC, which means that you can have, if you have an appliance that does deep packet inspection, or an appliance that looks at, I don't know, just what else you could be doing on it, but it's a whole separate discussion on whether you need them or not, but it's a possibility if you are an organization which requires deep packet inspection. There was VPC mirroring, which was kind of like a first version of if you could mirror VPC, but funny enough, because VPC flow logs doesn't really give you that detailed information, I feel like this is a great addition for anyone who's trying to do deep packet inspection, that, all my route traffic is going to go through here. If you have a host-based agent as well, that you can channel that through, you can route that through a certain appliance as well. I think that is, for me, that's a great feature, but obviously it comes with its own engineering challenges.
Yeah, in a way it does. On the other hand, last year when we got transit gateways, one of the common patterns already happening, that I assume you've seen as well, is that there is a single entry point for all your different VPCs.
Yes.
So in a way, this builds on top of that, or makes it a bit easier, I guess. In that regard, this is already happening.
But at the moment now, there's probably a better pattern for it, I guess. Or there's an obvious pattern. You don't have to hack your way around it. You just have a route table that goes to a VPC endpoint, or you just go, all right, I'm going to consume everything from this hardware appliance. I think the pattern definitely makes it a bit more easier now, at least from the sounds of it. Next one is Access Analyzer for AWS S3 buckets. This is an interesting one. Maybe I can kick this off, because I feel like it's one of those ones which is like a very security focused one, kind of like the detection one, and the IAM Access Analyzer. So this is funny enough how they name two of the things very similar. So I wonder if there's a version coming out for VPC Access Analyzer as well, or something like that. But the whole point is that it goes through permission bucket policies, and it would identify S3 buckets that may be open to the internet. I think the whole point behind this is a lot of products have been, I guess, introduced. A lot of SaaS products have been introduced in the space where, because S3 buckets were being made public left, right, and center, everyone talks about S3 bucket as that thing that, what if your S3 buckets go public? That's kind of like the FUD approach a lot of people use. So I think this is Amazon, again, being more proactive. They've already taken out they've already made it a 4 or 5 step process to make an S3 bucket public on the console. So it's not a straightforward process, but on top of it, they've even gone down the path of saying, we would ongoingly analyze the access you have on the bucket policies to make sure if something goes public, we notify you straight away, and you can swiftly remediate it instead of waiting for a SaaS service which probably updates in every 12 hours or whatever, or maybe an hour to figure out an S3 bucket is public.
Yep.
Do you agree, disagree?
I agree.
What do you want to add?
Actually, I will have a question for you. Do you know if it only looks at the bucket level or also the object level?
I think it does both, from what I understand. But then again, I have barely just gone through the notes. I haven't seen, because I didn't have enough data to go through it. Do you know if it looks at both?
I don't know. That's why I was just wondering, because one of the common issues I see is that a bucket itself might be mostly not public.
Oh, yeah, but the objects maybe.
An object might still
be public, yeah. And it's an interesting one, because the test that I ran was for the bucket. I didn't run a test for an object one. So yeah, maybe if someone in the audience has done it, if you're listening to this and if you've done it, or if you want to do it, please share some feedback. We would love hearing. Although I'm pretty sure Arjen and I'm going to just test it out pretty much after we finish recording. But it's a great thing. I love the question. And if you guys want to come back to us as well, we'll appreciate that. Next one, running quickly through the time over here. We just have a few more to go. Access points.
Access points. S3 access points, obviously, it allows you to limit access to specific data from specific places. Mm-hmm. It's on top of all the existing things. It's a way easier way to manage access from within a VPC to a bucket.
Yeah.
Where before you had to go through the VPC endpoint, have 700 buckets in there, and it was every application had the same access.
Yeah.
One big thing here also, what I find, is it allows you to differentiate read and write access more easily.
Yeah, I was going to say the RBAC feature, the role-based access control feature is amazing. I think the way the use case of the way it was explained was kind of like what you just mentioned, where you may have a HR team wants access to data of how awesome is the ambassador program that AWS APN ambassador program that you and I are part of. How many people are there, which is growing quite a bit. And so now we give them access, but tomorrow engineering team comes in. We have this really awesome thing that we want to do for AWS APN ambassadors. We want access to that data. Now, if you look at it, the second team, then there's a third team, fourth team. Everyone wants access to the same data, but now you have almost these 4, 5 or more different sets of users that you have to control access to. And to your point, some may require read access, some may require write access. It's a great way to centralize all of that. Just say, you just pass the same access point to everyone and define the kind of service that they can, or define the kind of permission that they can have. They can have a read or a write on it. I think that's a great way to use that. That's why I like the service from a security perspective. You can control access at scale. You can go granular if you want to, but at the same time, you can keep it coarse grained as well. Cool. I think we kind of spoke about the use case already. So what about next generation ARM-based gravitation 2 processors? Got a long title there.
It's awesome. For many use cases, we can easily run.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Hello. Yeah. Okay. Let's start recording again. All right. So the next one is next generation ARM-based AWS Gravitation 2 processor with memory encryption. Long word. What do you think of this?
It's awesome. We've seen not just everywhere people are moving more towards ARM-based processors.
Yeah.
We see them in all our phones and tablets and things like that all the time because they've got a much smaller energy footprint. And a lot of those processors are getting faster than the traditional Intel ones as well right now.
Yeah, I think for me it was memory encryption, as the name suggested.
Yeah.
They have made the encryption process 50% faster, so encryption performance has obviously accelerated as well. So that's a great feature from my perspective. All right, we've got 2 more to go. Quickly go through them. The event bridge schema registry. That's an interesting one, because at least from a security perspective, what I found interesting was that if you're already using an event-driven model for security findings and security remediation in the company, you can define a template or you can define, and if I go with their word, you can define a schema for what it would look like in an event bridge, and based on that, you can have notifications sent out. That's kind of what I like about it, but again, it's a preview. A lot of speculation. I don't know how effective it would be. That turns out it only supports Java, I guess. No, there's no JSON support. But hey, I'm not complaining at the moment. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, so the other flip side of that is the detection part as well.
Yeah.
So it will, or discovery, it's what it's called. It allows you to just say, okay, please generate code snippets for me that I can put in my code that match the structure of the events that are incoming.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, so the way I hear that is, if I'm a company that I'm not event based at the moment, but I want to be, I can probably use the service to start off and set foundations for it.
Yeah. So you can enable the discovery in your dev environment.
Yeah.
See all the incoming events. Notice, hey, this is what the structure will be like, generate code for me, and suddenly you've got your code completion and everything in your IDE.
Oh, wow. Oh, I like the service even more now. The last one, AWS Transit Gateway Network Manager.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to play with this one yet.
I think the way and if I were to add, I would probably say and I guess it's rightly so, because it's a service where a lot of people are talking that a lot of people have SOC teams, a lot of people have operation teams. They all have all these site maps on traffic going from one end to the other. Imagine like a massive room with a lot of televisions with a lot of dashboards. And this would be your one dashboard where you can see what's going through your transit gateway, VPN, what's the traffic flowing through it. It basically, the way AWS has framed it, you can have your on-premise as well as AWS network traffic. And the way I read it is you can have your Azure traffic, GCP traffic, or any other traffic going in and going to a central place. But Network Manager is basically to reduce operational complexity of managing multiple networks across multiple global networks. That's how I read it. But then again, I haven't used it much myself. I don't think we have big enough scale that people are ready to start off. So if anyone in the audience has already done this or using it, we would love to hear what you guys think, because it's available in Sydney as well. So I don't know how many people over here do global AWS. I'm sure quite a few do, so we'd love to hear from you guys. The 3 segments that we went through, we kind of spoke about security and the new service quite a bit. Something that we obviously did mention before was the fact that a lot of services are in preview mode. So if you guys use any services and you find that you have some more feedback to add, more than what Arjen and I've got spoken about, we would love to hear from you. You guys can reach me on Hashish.Rajana on Twitter. Arjen, where can people reach out to you for questions?
Let's do Twitter as well, which is Arjen Slots.
Thank you, Arjen. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you at the next episode.